22nd, WIKISPEED Lynnwood, Washington, United States shop, Thursday night build party demo. So I'm here with Brad, John, Conrad, Mike, Zan, Rob, and Rob. What did we get completed tonight? So let's pan across and have people shout tips that are useful. So we did apply grease, which we found is only required for aesthetic reasons. Here's the grease being tapped. To the brake pads in all of our brake calipers.
Grease light adhesive.
Grease light adhesive. Thank you, Brad. Actually, we didn't do it to the front right yet, but we did it to the front left and both rears. We found that our machined rear caliper mounts, which are 3.3 inches apart, are actually the incorrect spacing for our rear calipers. So we remeasured those. We're going to remachine those prototypes. What an embarrassing error, but this is exactly what happens, and I'm glad we did it for quantity of 2 instead of quantity of 40. We pressed in the hub carriers. That's the part here with the lug nuts sticking out. And then we installed the brake rotors, and we bought new brake rotors and brake rotor grease. We just picked them up from O'Reilly's across the street, which was awesome. So that happened. And then Conrad started developing our tie rod mount linkages. If you'd point at one.
This is a working prototype of one. It's got one of the holes milled, but it needs 2 more here that have to be tapped and figured out. So
yeah, it's going to need 2 more holes.
But this is where the tie rod will go through, and then it's going to mount to the modular knuckle here.
Awesome.
And
okay, and so those are in progress. 2 of them. You've got 2 of them to this state.
One of them is over there. One of them's over there. So.
Okay, one of them's there for measuring. They'll both need 2 more holes, so they mount on. Perfect. Well, that makes sense, right? And then earlier today, you and Justine arrived before anybody else, and you guys unpacked this car, which is in 3 parts and packs together. So there's the front underneath, and its doors are right there. And then you unpacked that car body there in Bay 4, and you inspected them for damage. And this windshield frame, our second of this style, were already unpacked, and you and Justine glued in with urethane adhesive the windshield, and we have a demo video going into that in a little bit more detail earlier. What am I skipping? Mike, for example, you were here when most of this happened. What am I skipping in the demo of what we were able to do tonight?
Most of what we worked on were the rotors, getting the calipers set up, and dealing with those things.
Any tips, Mike? If someone was using just this demo video to guide them assembling similar parts, what tip would you recommend to them so it would work well?
Well, the one thing we discovered earlier on is that when we compressed the, what would that be, the bearing and this other part together, knowing exactly when to stop, because we ended up splitting the 2 rings apart.
Of the bearing. The bearing sides separated when we were pressing in the hub carrier.
Right.
So we ended up creating a backing plate press for the bearing to hold the bearing together while it pressed into the hub carrier, and knowing when to stop would also have been useful for pressing the hub carrier into the bearing. Got it? Yep.
Yeah, so that took a little extra time, so that was probably the key thing.
Okay. John O'Connell, is there a tip you'd give for someone else somewhere in the world following one of these videos to do similar work?
Well, I was just going to say that actually, but yeah, basically just make sure you, and also just kind of make sure when you're pushing the bearings together, the bearing and the hub cap together, just to make sure it's straight, because even though it can kind of straighten itself out, you just don't know if it's going to fall apart or break through it, so you just want to make sure it's straight before you push it.
As you press, check for straightness, and check for straightness before you start pressing. If you're going to be pressing 2 parts together, like a bearing into a bearing block or a hub carrier into a bearing.
Particularly, a good way to do it is to set it on, set a piece of wood down, put whatever you're going to press it into on that, then say your bearing on top of that, and then another piece of wood on top of that, and get it kind of lined up and give it a whack with a hammer, so it's just a little bit in. Set it on whatever you're going to press it in with, and that will already be a little canted off. Compensate for that with the way you press, so that it will, rather than just pressing it in like that, it'll level it out and then move it over so it's level and then press it in, and that goes really nicely.
Brilliant. And when we press, wood will just get split by the press, so we replace wood pieces with aluminum pieces. We use scrap aluminum on either side and press on it, and that works well. Brad, something you might add to someone replicating this work somewhere else in the world?
if I was you, I would take and do certain portions of the video in motion. While I'm over here working with the thing, I'd be doing a video of a portion of that, and a video of a portion of this, so that the people can actually see you working with the part rather than just discussing how it went together.
Yeah. So there's a great tip for demo videos. Any tips also on the work that was done in retrospect? And thanks. I don't mean to make light of the point too. That's totally good.
I appreciate it. And I can't think of anything right now.
Well, appreciate it. It's a good point. Well, and we're at 5.5 minutes, which is perfect for a demo video. Folks, Lynnwood, Washington, USA, May 22nd.